Hey y'all, my name is Becca and I am a student teacher here at Groom High School. I am student teaching in the agriculture department, and with that, this lesson is going to be in the agriculture content area. This lesson is designed for 11th and 12th grade students that have previously taken agriculture courses for the previous 2 years. This provides them with the previous knowledge that they need to continue and be successful in this course. With that being said, the TEKS that I am using are: the student identifies and researches agribusiness issues. The student is expected to compare and contrast the marketing of agricultural and non-agricultural products, describe the effects on urbanization on traditional agriculture. With that being said, this lesson is for, like I said, 11 and 12th grade students, and this is going to be an agribusiness course that this lesson will be a part of. The vocabulary that I have chosen, the 3 words to start out with, are urbanization, agribusiness, and traditional. I have designed this lesson to where if the students come across words that they don't know, they can feel free to add to our vocab list, and that will help the whole class learn and each student be more involved with their learning through this process as well. So the first activity that we're going to do is a vocab activity. So the students will be placed into groups and given one vocabulary word. The group size depends on the class size, as well as how many vocabulary words you decide to have. Like I said, I'm starting out with 3, and so the whole class would be split into 3 groups. With that, they'll have 10 minutes to prepare a skit that explains their word. They cannot use the word in their skit, and the rest of the class will try and guess the word. Now, this is kind of hard for me to do over a video, but for an example, if their word was urbanization and there were 6 kids in the group to perform this skit, some could be buildings while others could be builders, and they were building up the buildings. Please deal with me as my camera moves along. I have to hold it because I move around a lot. But like I was saying, the students could start out small as buildings and then build up as other buildings and be still. Like I said, they can talk during it, but they don't need to be using their key term. Then the rest of the class will try to decide their key term. As we go through this towards the end of it, the students will then have a class discussion and be able to ask questions, and I will teach them about these key terms in the content of this specific lesson. The next activity that I'm going to explain is a bit of a research. So the students will research a new ag technology. They will then use Google Slides or a poster to teach the class. They're encouraged to find a video about their technology. Even if they use a poster, I still want them to use a video because it needs to be a technology that is real. I don't want them making up a technology for this. Agriculture is always changing, always growing, and there are always new, very cool things coming out. For this example, I have found a video of a new technology, so I will just kind of play the introduction. The point of these videos is to grab your attention. I don't want the video to do all of the teaching for the students. I want them to use it as an attention grabber and as an advertisement, and then they can explain the technology and why it's important as they teach about it to the rest of the class. Okay, so that gave some pretty cool footage of this tractor being used and what it entails, and gives lots of talking points for the students to explain how the controls work, explain the purpose of the tracks, explain the purpose of a tractor this big, and explain the difference between the 8R, the 8RT, and the 8RX. They are very different tractors used for very different things, and the students can use that and talk about that in their presentation. This will give them public speaking as well as just more knowledge and more investment in the agriculture industry in itself. In this area, the Panhandle of Texas, specifically Groom, we are surrounded by agriculture and these awesome tractors and different types of technology that are shown all over the place. And a lot of students drive to Amarillo or drive to Oklahoma City and see these tractors, but don't understand what they are and how they're used or even why they're used. So this allows them to take a break from listening to me and listen to their other classmates, but it also gives the students the experience of teaching and the experience of talking in front of their classmates, talking in front of people that they are familiar with. I will provide a rubric for each of these activities beforehand, and if the students need it, I will sit down with them and make a checklist from that rubric. I know for me personally, that makes things a lot easier and can help break down that rubric. I like the use of rubrics simply because it gives the students a choice for their grade, especially those higher level students who are possibly going on to careers or to college or moving on from high school. It teaches them that life has consequences and choices, and they truly have a choice for their own grade. The final activity that I'll be explaining today, there will be tons of activities within this lesson because it is such a cool, big lesson. The class will be split into 4 groups. Again, depending on how big the class is, this kind of needs to be a smaller, more immediate group. So if you have a bigger class, go ahead and split into 6 or 8 groups. They need to be even amounts because half of the students will be advertising and trying to market and sell an agricultural item, while the other half will be selling non-agricultural items. So I did 4 because I've been student teaching in a small school, and so we don't have that many students to split up and work with. So 2 of the groups will receive an ag product and the other will receive a non-ag product. They will then come up with a sales pitch to present to the class. They will have multiple days to work on this depending on how long the class period is. And I encourage them to use graphics, to use videos, all that sort of thing. If they want to find specifically ag products that are out there, they can do that. What I will give them on a piece of paper is just simple words, such as cotton stripper, combine, a Dodge Charger, or an oven. The first 2, of course, being agricultural items, the second 2 not so much. With the cotton stripper, they can go out and find an actual cotton stripper that is in production today and use that and market that specific item, or they can come up with this new fancy cotton stripper from their imagination. I do ask that if they do that, they draw pictures, things like that, to help the class, help me envision what this would be like. They need to include their target audience in this. So if it's a new type of machinery that's never been made, then they need to say, well, I'm pitching this to John Deere or to New Holland to see if they can make this item. Then if it's something that's already been made and already in production, they need to explain that they are pitching it to a local cotton farmer. Or if it's the oven, then maybe to a group of moms or something along those lines. The other activity that is mainly the meat of this lesson is the students will each go and find their own news article. It needs to be an agricultural news article, preferably something about marketing of agricultural products or something that affects that. The article that I chose as an example is short. It is off of AgWeb, and it just talks about how the weather has been affecting harvesting so far. It goes down and explains here, harvest is still on the move as the new month begins, the new month being December. USDA is extending its harvest progress updates into this month because of the slow harvest. It is important to read articles such as this because it affects our area very drastically with this moisture and cold then warm then cold then warm that we have been receiving, as well as other parts of the United States. And it is very important for the students to understand that. to relate that back to what they see out their windows when they're driving, or what their family might be involved in, or to also know that there's life outside of the Texas classroom. There's life outside of Groom, Texas. There's life outside of Amarillo, Texas, and other people are struggling with this as well. With these articles, they will be asked to submit them for me to review so that I can see that the content is challenging enough for them to learn something from it. It's not just going to be a breeze for them to just cruise through, easy task. I want it to challenge them, but I don't want it to be so challenging that they get frustrated and they can't quite get it. I don't want them to fight their heads with this topic. I also want there to be some new vocabulary to add to that vocabulary list that I mentioned in the beginning. 3 words aren't quite enough for something like this. There's going to be a lot of new vocab. I want them to share that with me either on their exit tickets or out loud to where we can research it as a class. I can go find information on it and we can bring it back and learn about it as a whole. Then they will write a short summary about this. I prefer handwritten because it shows exactly what they have learned. It also shows their spelling and their grammar. With this age going into the real world, I want to catch those mistakes before I turn them loose and try to help them as much as I possibly can. Now, if there is an IEP or a 504 or some other reason that they cannot do this, accommodations and modifications will be made to help those students. I hope that this lesson was informal. I am very excited to implement it in my future classrooms. The activities, like I said, there are more activities than the ones that I explained today, and they can all be changed and rearranged depending on the learning styles of the students in the classroom. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.